Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today we're discussing chapters 48 through 51 of, I almost said Rhythm of War because I'm reading Rhythm of War myself, of Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. In these chapters, we get two Moash perspectives. Amazing, I know. And Dalinar flashback. And then we find out a little bit about what's going on back at the, what do you call them? The war camps. We haven't been back there in a bit. And a little bit of Shallan's plan to get away from Yasna for a little bit. So, some interesting stuff in here. I'm Data, and with me today is
Jamie.
And Joe.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Yearnings intertwined, the golden age in ashes once again. Under stirring stars, in the burning shards, kindle fragments of the fallen rain. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn. Stronger together now, we would never.
So yeah, before we jump into things, clearly Dak not here today. Sorry, y'all. It was his turn to be absent. We can't keep everybody here for the life of us, apparently. But he's working in things. That's kind of important, one might say. I also want to let everyone know we are not going to have a new episode next week. I am out of town on the normal days that we might actually be able to record, so we're going to have to skip the next one. Sorry, y'all. We will get back to it. Although, possibly consider this a positive, negative, I don't know. But I have reworked things a little bit, and we're going to try an experiment starting with the next episode where I've increased the amount that we're reading each week to try to cut down on how horribly long these books are. So we'll try it for a couple of weeks and see if it inflates our episodes ridiculously or something. And if not, then we might stick with the longer segments through Stormlight. This is our 16th episode of this book, and at the end of this episode, we'll be 41% of the way through. So, yeah, it's a big book. It was going to be, my original outline had it as 39 episodes. With the new raised ceiling for how much we read a week, it would come out to 33 episodes. So, still a lot, but cuts it back a little bit. So we're going to try that experiment starting next time. I thought I would let you guys know that up front also. But today we're talking about these 4 chapters. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
These chapters. Yeah, I can't believe Dak misses 2 Moash chapters.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I got to admit, the first couple of sentences of Moash's chapter, I was like, oh no, he's sympathetic to their plight. He's gonna be for them. He's not gonna come back. We're not gonna see him be redeemed at all. And then he went into Woe is Moash again, and I was like, I'm sick of reading this guy's perspective, honestly. But I do think it's pretty funny that he is basically a bridgeman again. And obviously he thought that was pretty funny too, the way he was laughing. He's done this before, he'll be fine. So yeah, it wasn't all is lost on Moash's chapters. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, they're going into Kolinar, so I'm excited that we're going to start seeing that storyline, come to fruition, probably in the second half of this book. So that's kind of cool. Dalinar flashbacks. Yeah, I was really happy for him. Like when Adolin was born, I thought that was a really nice moment. I'm glad we got to see that. Interesting that he was into the moss as well. We can see what that does to a bunch of different people. The Blackthorn was just a really scary dude. And it's interesting because you've got people who are like, yes, the Blackthorn, he's back. We've almost had in the previous books people wanting to see the Blackthorn come out. Obviously, he's been dormant for some time, but at this present or this 23 years ago moment, people aren't looking for the Blackthorn to come out. They don't necessarily want that. It's like you want that fighting for your side, but you don't want to come up against it yourself, clearly, because our wrestler decided, no, that's not a good thing. Yeah, it's just still not. Every time we read something about Dalinar in the past, I'm like, this is not the Dalinar we know. And I know that it's obviously a journey and there's still 23 years between then and the Dalinar we know today. People grow and change a lot. So it'll be interesting now that Adolin's there to see how also that changed him, if it changed him. So we'll see what that's looking like. And then going off into the war camp, that was good as well. A little bit of Detective Dalinar going on. I enjoyed reading about that. Finding now that all his landmarks are gone, he's not really sure where he's going around his war camp. That would suck. I didn't really think about it like that, but I guess I hadn't realised that there was still so much kind of left behind. Like there were still people. I guess everyone left, and then they sort of come back, and it makes sense. But I guess we haven't really been there from our storytelling perspective, so it's good to get a bit of an idea of what's going on in there as well. And Shallan, I'm still worried about Shallan. And also, if you're going to expose your powers, like I don't know. She was showing Elhokar, but I thought Elhokar would be more shocked. So I don't know whether Elhokar already knows, doesn't know. I was a little bit confused in that. That's a lot to be sort of confronted. Like he's very cool about that, to be confronted with that all at once. So that was a little bit strange. But also kind of, you look at the players that are going to move out of Urithiru at the moment, and that sounds like it's going to be quite interesting. There's a lot of storylines that can come to a head there. So I'm excited for us to move in that direction, hopefully soon.
Yeah, you make an interesting point about Elhokar, because I feel like in my mind it was just, oh, he's the king. Of course they keep him informed about this kind of stuff, but we know that that's not really necessarily the case.
Yeah. And so, because Dalinar's, like she made a point of she's calling everyone else, like everyone else thinks she's an else caller like Yasna.
Mm-hmm.
No one else knows what Dalinar knows.
I mean, yeah, Dalinar has to know.
He has to know, but I thought he was the only one, and then Yasna would know she's not an else caller.
Yeah, I think Yasna must know.
So she
also,
would know.
Yeah. Well,
but she was very careful about showing off her abilities to anybody for that reason, because she didn't want to be, used that way or have people not trust her.
Yeah.
In that regard.
At the same time, like she's doing that thing with the map with him where they're creating the illusion of that giant map for like the big meetings.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
as far as no one else caller can't do that. So maybe like most people just don't know enough about the different orders to understand one versus the other, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was just a bit confusing to me, but yeah, particularly Elhokar's reaction. Yeah, Elhokar's reaction I thought was a bit simplistic, but let's see what happens. We'll see. Maybe we just spend a bit more time with Elhokar actually, and see what he's like away from Dalinar, and yeah,
away from the responsibilities and the court and all that stuff. He could be a very different person. It's true. Also, I like you mentioned about Adolin's birth. Like it is kind of a sweet moment that we get to see there, and he's naming his son. And then, of course, it kind of gets undercut very quickly when the king shows up, and it's like, hey, I need you to go and kill a bunch of people,
Way to ruin a moment, Gavilar.
Which is what Dalinar has been wanting, and so he finally gets that, but at the one moment that he's like, okay, I don't know if I actually want that now. But then another note I had was like, you said that everything's kind of moving towards Kholinar at this point, and that's really probably a real good description of where we seem to be heading, because the Moash section is clearly heading that way, and then at the same time, Elhokar and Kaladin, and now it seems Shallan and Adolin, they're all getting ready to move that same direction. So it seems like we might be in for a big kind of conflux in Kholinar. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and some new players. I think, Elhokar's wife, I kind of want to see. Obviously, it's a big thing that we don't know what's going on with her, and she was doing some things that maybe, the king wouldn't support. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what's going on with her and what's going on there, because clearly all of the powers that be are in the dark. So, for all they know, wars come out or people have taken over, and it's obviously not a good situation. If they knew what was going on, they wouldn't be going, would they? So
right. At least, I guess we know from the Moash perspective that the enemy has not taken over the city yet, which is more information than most of our characters have. But yeah, what exactly is going on? Good question. We shall find out, hopefully. Joe, if you want to do some of the chapters you missed also to talk about your perspective, feel free to do that.
I don't remember what happens in those chapters, to be honest.
Like I read all that a long time ago. Whatever.
I did. I read that like almost right after the previous episode that I was on. I read those chapters, and so I do not recall. But for these sections, yeah, I mean, 2 Moash sections, not super thrilled about that. I do kind of agree with Jamie. It's like everything's headed towards Kolinar. So the Moash perspectives were good in that instance, right? Because we know kind of from 2 sides of the story, right? From the Parshendi side of the story and our other main character side of the story, where it looks like we're all about to converge on Kolinar. So that'll be an event for sure. The interesting part to me about that is Dalinar is not going. So it'll be interesting to see what that dynamic is. And if Dalinar agrees to let Shallan go, which Shallan makes it sound like he's not going to let me do anything. I'm going to do what I want. But if he agrees to let her go, then what, that whole dynamic with Kaladin, Elhokar, and Shallan, 3 characters. We've seen Kaladin and Shallan together. We've seen Kaladin and Elhokar together. We just saw Shallan and Elhokar together for a very short period, but we've never seen the 3 of those people together doing things. So that'll be kind of different if that is the case. It wouldn't surprise me if Adolin wanted to go, if he knows Shallan's going. So maybe Adolin will also go. Who knows?
I think they already said that Adolin was going. Like Adolin and Elhokar were going to go.
Yeah, so if Adolin's going to go and okay. This kind of makes more sense, like from a character's desire wise, right? Like they're all going to go. But anyway, and so we've got that. We've had the inklings from the previous books that Elhokar may be talking to a Spren, even though he doesn't know it, right? And so there's the possibility that plays a factor in maybe the coming events. So it'll be interesting to see if that manifests itself in a more direct way. Yeah, the Dalinar flashback again. We keep getting these hints of who Dalinar was before. We're now up to the point where his son is born, and you can kind of see even from this brief little section that the birth of his firstborn might have been part of the catalyst to kind of start the turn. But he has such loyalty to his brother that he's got to be this person that his brother needs him to be, right? And so maybe the completion of that turn is like, oh, my brother's gone. Now that's when I've really changed, right? And so he's still the person that we would think Sadeas remembers him as, the Blackthorn. Even in this moment, he's itching for a fight, realizes, hey, maybe that's not the way I should go about things. And then his brother's like, hey, I need you to go fight these guys to show them, that we're strong. And so you've got these 2 pieces of himself warring against each other almost, because he's trying to kind of figure things out. So I would say that this section, this particular flashback, because I'm not a big fan of flashbacks in general in these books over the course of the 3 books that we've read, but this flashback I think is probably the most interesting one that we've had so far, because we're seeing a turn in Dalinar. We're getting a lot of internal monologue about like who he is and why he was this Blackthorn, why he felt the need. He had this burning desire to conquer, fight, whatever it was, the thrill, right? It's this emotional feeling that he's getting that he's trying to substitute with drugs or whatever. We're kind of seeing this person that he was, and maybe what starts to soften him and change him. So that's interesting. And I'm sure Brandon's a dad. I'm sure, I don't recall when this particular book came out, but I'm sure he was probably a dad after or before he wrote this, because there is a really, I think he does a really good job describing like that elation of your child being born, and this is getting into some different kind of territory, but like there's studies that have shown it's like having a child like alters your brain chemistry. So like it's definitely, a child can definitely change the way you are inside and out. So I think that is his son being born as a catalyst for that eventual change that does come to pass and bring us to the Dalinar that we know now. So good stuff though. I enjoyed all these sections, even the Moash stuff. It's good. It's good to kind of guide us in the direction that the story is going to go, because we're getting kind of behind the scenes. It is interesting to me that for a hot minute, Kaladin was our behind the scenes on what the Parshendi were up to, but it was still kind of veiled in mystery. And now Moash, because of his position within the Parshendi like people, he's basically their slave. He's giving us even more insight into what's going on with them. So it's kind of funny that he's using 2 different characters to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah, like Kaladin was the only window we had into this, and then we lost that for a little bit, and now it's been replaced by Moash. And so,
Terrible replacement for sure.
In one way, Moash makes for a very different sort of perspective, right? But in another way, like Kaladin was starting to feel for these guys, and Moash is kind of the same. Yeah. It's interesting to me that you're like, this is my favorite of the flashbacks that we've had, like, overall. It's one of the least, like, action-y sort of things, right? There's not, like, anything big and crazy happening, but it's a very big, like, character turning point for him, right? Which, like,
and I think that's why it's so interesting. It's like, I don't know that there was any one flashback during the Kaladin section flashbacks that really showed us like, oh, Kaladin changed, right? Because he the death of his brother is obviously the catalyst for a lot of things changing in his life, but Kaladin's brain and his personality and his feelings and the way he does life doesn't change all that much. He kind of always wasn't into light eyes. He kind of held him up on a plateau, like certain light eyes on a plateau, right? And then when they let him down, he's just like, oh, forget all these guys, right? But as far as that goes, his personality doesn't change a whole lot. And Shallan has a lot of trauma in her early life that has definitely shaped who she is. And she's now in this weird, like, I don't know who I am phase of her life. I don't know that any of the flashbacks gave us particular insight into who Shallan is now, right? We've got a lot of information about trauma that caused Shallan to do things and ultimately led to the secret being uncovered of, you know, what she did, at least to an extent. We still don't know all the details of that.
Yeah, we don't.
But we don't know, you know, who she is. She doesn't even know who she is right now, which, you know, again, a teenager. I think all teenagers go through that phase, like, who am I? But like, this is to a weird extent, right? Because she can literally create illusions to be what she wants to be. So it's kind of adds to that teenage problem of like self-identity and who am I, when you're like, yeah, I could be anybody. I literally could be anybody. So I don't know what to do or who I should be.
Yeah, and based on some of the stuff that happened in the last section, when we were talking about that last week, Dak was like, so is she like developing dissociative identity disorder? Like, she's starting to talk about these different aspects, like they're completely different people that she has no control over. And so it's potentially some dangerous stuff happening.
Yeah, and I think I kind of had talked a little bit, not specifically that disorder, but talked a little bit about how that is a little troubling, how she is manifesting these identities to basically fill in gaps where she feels like she doesn't live up to a certain expectation of herself, right? So, and then, yeah, to take it that step further, to be like, well, that's not me, that's Vale. Vale is this, Vale is that, Vale is this, I'm not. And it's like, well, you created Vale. That's you. You're just highlighting different aspects of yourself. But again, we don't know exactly how these powers work. Like, do they physically, chemically change her brain, right? Because we know there's other investiture that does that, the soul stamps, right? They physically, mentally change you to, even so far as to change your background of what you believe your history is.
Yep.
And I think to an extent, which I don't fully understand this. I think connection also does that. Maybe on Scadrial, the connection power, but I don't know exactly how that works. That's still kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, like they had the thing where it's like the medallions change your connection. So like your brain thinks it's from this place, and that's why you can speak the language of this place.
Yeah,
but they knew they were not from that place. Like, yeah, it's complex for sure. I think it's intentionally like not completely clear.
Right.
But yeah, there's some weirdness going on with that kid, you know. Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters, y'all. We are still dealing with some letters as our epigraphs here. And our first chapter, Rhythm of Work, it says, "But we stand in the sea, pleased with our domains. Leave us alone." So, all right then. And if we all remember, last time we saw Moash, he was signing up for the hardest, most grueling work available, which was pulling carts full of supplies for the war effort. And it turns out that they didn't even have enough wagons. Like, there's not enough carts to carry all the stuff. So he's pulling a sled across the ground. And it's not, this is not Christmas and Santa's sleigh on snow. This is some rough, rocky terrain that they're having to pull a sled over.
Yeah. Mush. Mush.
It sounds truly awful.
It does sound truly awful, but from his perspective, he's like, I mean, this is nothing on being a bridgeman. Like, being a bridgeman sucked. This is easy by comparison.
Oh, you're not wrong. I mean, he's still definitely been through some stuff in his life, and you know, this is not the worst day, and they're well looked after. So
Yeah, he's surprised by how nice the Voidbringers are. Like, they take good care of him. They give him plenty of rest and water breaks and food. And he thinks, like, it's like these people recognize that if you want the best work out of people, they need to be well fed and well rested, which just throws even more shade on Alethi culture, which apparently people do not recognize that all the time. And when they saw that his boots were getting worn out, he had new boots by that night. So yeah, these guys are taking care of their slaves. Good on them, I guess. If you're gonna have slaves, you should be nice to them. That's a weird perspective to take.
Yeah,
the more I think
the
about that.
Sanderlanche podcast does not condone slavery in any form, whether you're nice to your slaves or not. So we're just gonna dial it back on that one.
Do not have slaves.
Slavery, bad.
Yep. Murder and slavery. We've come out in opposition to both of these things.
Yes, if it was
Taking
a
a
surprise
bold
to anyone,
stance.
we are opposed to both of those things completely, 100%. It's not okay.
Yeah, I know. We're going to lose some viewers, some listeners who they're like, "What? My slaves?" But it's just a risk we're willing to take.
We're
Stand up
willing
for
to
what's
go out on that limb to say, you know what? The buck stops here. Slavery bad.
Oh man,
The
And
Sanderlanche podcast.
the quote. Feel free to quote us. Slavery bad.
Yeah. If anybody ever questions it, you're like, hey man, didn't you listen to the Sanderlanche podcast? Slavery's bad.
Yeah, right. I like the note. Like, he starts coming up as he's on these long. Like, he doesn't interact with any of the other people on his pulling crew. He doesn't care. He's just thinking to himself this whole time. And he starts thinking, you know what? What happened on the Shattered Plains wasn't my fault. I was pushed into it. I can't be blamed.
What a punk.
And he feels very comforted by this. Like, yeah. It's everybody else's fault.
People who say they sympathize with Moash, like, what are you talking about? He literally just said, yeah, all that stuff I did, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah. Of all the things people hate about Moash, that's always the one that annoys me most, is when he starts with that. It's like, I'm not responsible for the things I did. Like,
yeah.
I sort of hope that he's just talking himself into it, being like, see, like I'm not a horrific person, but we all know that he did not make good choices.
Right. And he doesn't have to believe himself to be a horrific person, but he definitely needs to at least take responsibility for what he decided to do.
Yeah, that's really
Agreed.
my thing, where it's like, you can make bad choices. If you take responsibility for them and it's like, I screwed up, then I'm willing to give you some slack, right? If you're just like blaming everybody else, that gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
And we find out about at least one other kind of fuse that he sees. He sees some more of those fused who are flying around, but then there's some that can't fly that are riding horses. So, okay, there's multiple kinds of fused, I guess.
So again, we see Brandon lets the villains ride horses.
Yep. And he starts thinking, like, these guys are decent guys. Like, did humanity ever really even deserve a kingdom? Maybe they should win this.
Oh, boy. Talk about Stockholm Syndrome.
Obviously, the Almighty has sent these Voidbringers back because we proved that we couldn't take care of things ourselves. But there's one little thing that niggles at him that about how, great the Voidbringers really are. There's one group of Parshendi who are also pulling a sled, and while the guys who are in charge of the sled that Moash and most of the other people are on, they're only supposed to whip people in, like, extreme circumstances. Like, they're supposed to be kind of cool. These Parshendi get whipped constantly and, like, beaten and yelled at. And he's just like, man, that sucks. Like, what the hell? What did those guys do to deserve this?
Yeah, they hung out with your old friend Calidan.
It does seem to be the case, when we get there.
I mean, even at this point, that's kind of what I figured, because I'm like, what else would they be mad at other Parshendi for doing?
Yeah, that we would know about, because
Right.
we haven't seen that much of them.
Yeah. It's like, obviously, it's the guys that came with Kaladin.
Yeah, and, like, he asks his overseer, like, hey, what did those guys do? And they say, they harbored a false god, brought him into the very center among us. And Moash's like, the Almighty? It's like, no, a real false god, a living one.
I like how he's like, no, real one.
I like how you could be a real false god.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you don't understand. He has god powers, but he's a false god. I think that's his point, right? It's like he's a physical thing that exists that has power, but he's not the real god. He's a false god.
He says he's like our living gods. And she looks up at the fused. So they worship the fused.
The proud, the fused.
And I like Moash is like, well, I mean, there's lots of people who think the Almighty is also real. And she's just like, yeah, if he is, then how come you're the one pulling the sled, huh? Dumbass. Just I love that reaction. Like, well,
then why are you the one pulling? Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing to prop yourself up on. It's like, I enslaved you. If your gods were real, then how'd that happen?
Yeah.
It's like,
where's your god now?
But they kind of make their own point moot, right? Because their gods exist and they were enslaved at one point.
Yep.
So what are they talking about?
Yeah.
That was then. This is now, you know?
Yeah. Living in the moment here.
Same, but different.
Yeah. And then he looks over and those guys are getting whipped again. And he's just like, that's enough. And he goes over there and he's like, hey, stop. Don't you see what you're doing? You're becoming like us. You can't abuse each other. You can't. And then the guy's just like, I guess I got to whip this guy too. Okay. And Moash catches the whip and snatches it away and then punches dude right in his face, knocks him right to the ground. And they think, geez, that hurt. Like, they have carapace on the side of their heads that I punched right into there.
Yeah. Punching giant crabs, man. Doesn't work out sometimes.
You know, crab punching. Maybe it's a sport in this world.
I don't know. I don't think they call them crabs. It'd be like creme punching or something.
That's something that Dalinar could have gotten into. Maybe that would have helped.
Yeah. Maybe it would have.
He would have felt better.
Don't wrestle me. Just punch it. Just punch a crab. It's fine.
Just punch a crab.
They should have crab wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want a giant one like a chasm fiend, but you get like a one about the same size as a dude and wrestle it. Yeah. Like alligator wrestling. But Moash, he tells the guy that was being beat, hey, ride up in the sled, heal your feet, which he noticed were bleeding. Like, no wonder this guy can't keep up. His feet are all messed up. And so from then on, Moash is just pulling that sled with the Parshendi. And there's some discussion among the overseers, like, should we do something about this? And eventually they seem to decide, like, nah, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. We didn't like Mike anyway. You could punch him in the face all you want.
But no one dares to whip those Parshmen anymore. Moash got their back.
And those Parshmen
You
are
sure
like,
showed them, Moash.
yeah, especially because the Parshmen in question are just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they don't care. And so that leads us into the Dalinar flashback chapter, Born Unto Light. And Dalinar is doing some moss, some fire moss.
He's doing a Teft, eh?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to like do as much for him as it does for Teft. He's like, yeah, I get that. I get a little bit of good feeling out of it, but it's really fleeting.
It's because Teft's never had the thrill.
Maybe. And so, yeah, it says he gets some euphoria out of that, but it seems to wear off pretty quickly. And he's just in a bar with some of his old buddies, some guys who were members of his elites back in the day when that meant something. Just hanging out, having drinks. This is one of the few places he can go where being a high prince doesn't mean everyone's like giving him space and worried about offending him or whatever. So he's just hanging out with the boys, having some drinks, doing some drugs, as you do. And so his friends here, we got Havar and Bashan. Bashan is a guy who's traveled half the world, a dark-eyed guy, a first non, so like the highest level of dark eyes you can be. And he's traveled half the world and wants Dalinar to come with him to see the other half. And he wears a big floppy hat that everyone thinks is stupid. And also, apparently he's a fat guy because they comment on like how big he is. He's like, hey, you light eyes need folks to obey, right? I just to obey you, so I make sure that you have lots to serve you by weight.
Come down to I love that he got his hat from the Pure Lake too. That just makes me giggle. I'm like, oh really? The Pure Lake, huh?
Everybody's chill out there, you know? And so there's like a ring in the middle of this place where people wrestle, and so they're placing bets on the wrestling matches. And Havar bets Bashan 3 garnet marks, so that's a decent amount of money, against his hat. And Bastion's like, "Ha! You finally admit how dashing my hat is." And Navarre's like, "No, I'm going to do you a favor and burn it when I win it from you."
I don't want to look at that hat anymore, man. The hat is going.
I love it.
Take that hat back to the Pure Lakes, eh?
He's like, "Just because you envy my dashing profile." And then the retort, "The only thing dashing about that hat is how it makes women run the other way."
Nice.
And so they watch the wrestling bout. Bastion with his hat wins. He does not have to get his hat burned. So that's always good. And Navarre's like, "You want to go double or nothing?" And Bastion's like, "No, you know what? This is enough." Enough for what? To bribe some influential young dandies into trying hats like mine. Once word gets out, everyone's going to be wearing them. And he goes, "You're an idiot." And Bastion's like, "Yeah, as long as I'm a fashionable one." I love these guys. I want to see more of them. They're fun. And so it turns out that things at the Rift are still not going so well. The Heir has declared himself new High Prince. He's gathering people, troops and stuff. But Gavilar still wants to handle it with diplomacy, so we're not going there. And then a guy comes over to let them know, hey, the feature match is canceled. The opponent has stomach problems, so Mock is the guy that they're like, oh, he's not going to fight? Maybe he's like the champion or something, I don't know. And no one's happy about this. There's boos and shouts and people getting angry. And then Dalinor's like, I know what to do. He stands up and rips his shirt off. And they're like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, everyone's real upset. I'm going to pick them up. Like, Gavilar says I need to have more concern for our people's sorrows. Well, everyone here is sorrowful about the match being canceled. And so he's going to challenge Mock and says so out loud. And then everybody starts getting quiet. The whole room starts
Way to kill the party.
Yeah. And Mock is like, so this was supposed to be a free-form bout. Like, any hits or holds allowed. And I was like, yeah, awesome. What, you worried about hurting me? I promise clemency for anything you do to me.
He's like, that's not what we're worried about.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm not worried about hurting you, no.
That did not enter my mind, oh High Prince.
And then the whole room is suddenly real awkward. And Don's like, oh man, this sucks. And he thinks that it's about like his rank. He's like, oh, I guess really rank isn't unimportant to these people. I just thought that was the case. But no, it turns out, Dalinar's talking to his friends like, that guy seemed scared of me or something. What's up with that? Is it just my amazing reputation? And Havar's like, okay, you remember that like bar fight you had a couple of weeks ago? And Dalinar's like, yeah, you told me everyone was fine. And he's like, well, they lived. One of them will never walk again. Another had to have his arm removed. And a third babbles like a child. His brain just doesn't work anymore.
See, they should have told him.
Yeah.
That's awful. Like obviously, you probably didn't want to hurt people that bad in the first place. But if he's going around thinking he didn't hurt people that bad, that's not fair.
Yeah. Also, very understandable how after that, nobody wants to fight him.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. I forfeit. That's fine. I don't need my brain scrambled and my limbs removed. Thank you.
For sure. And Downer goes, that's not fine. Why'd you tell me they were fine? And Havar's like, I mean, when you face the Blackthorn, like, that's about as good as you can expect to walk away. And so, yes, everything's real awkward. But then his brother-in-law comes in, Toe. And he's looking around like, oh, is there a party here? He notices, like, Downer, like, ripped some of the buttons on his shirt when he ripped it off. And so now that he's put it back on, it looks a little bit weird. And the other guys are here, they start kind of making fun of Toe. Like, oh, how could it be a party without you, Toe? But he's come here for a reason. He's like, they were going to send a messenger, but I wanted to come myself. My sister, you see. It's a little early, but the midwives aren't surprised. They say it's natural. Like, get to the point. But Dalinar gets the point, and he just runs out the door. And I love when he sees his wife, he's like, I have seen this look on people before. Like, sweaty, dazed, completely exhausted. Like, this is someone who's been on the field of battle all day, essentially. And he has a son, healthy and strong. And they bring him out, and they're like, the lady's like, okay, so a lot of men are apprehensive about holding the baby, and he just grabs the kid and holds him up. I'm picturing this like Simba in The Lion King, Rafiki's hold him up.
Yes.
Glory Spren.
Yeah. And he's like, my son. And the nurse is like, dude, be careful. Like, that's not how you hold a baby.
He's like, it's fine. He's a Lethe. Don't worry about it.
He's a Colin. He's made of hardy stuff. If I drop him, it'll be fine. And he thinks, may you have your father's strength and at least some of your mother's compassion. And then they got to come up with a name for him. And Dalinar, no consulting his wife at all. But, oh no, I guess he does. I'm sorry. He says Adoda, which means light, and he looks at Evie and she nods. So I was being unfair to him. He says it without consulting, but she's okay with it. And then the suffix is Lin, which means born unto. So Adolin's name means born unto light. Which that's kind of cool. It's a nice name.
Definitely worse names that like worse meanings of names that you could give your child. So
Yeah.
I like
Also,
it. Cute.
also, I just realized that if that's the case, their last name is Colin, and so it's Adolin Colin. So it's like born unto light, and then also something light. So what does co mean?
Huh. No, the Lin part means is the born unto.
Oh, okay. So born unto light, and then born unto something else.
Maybe it's like the equivalent of son, like Jackson.
Sure.
Son of Jack, and you're born
Could
onto. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that would
gonna
make
see if I
sense.
can find this. I'm gonna
Born
see if I
under
can-
co.
yeah. Whatever co is, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
Because
wanna know what
we
co
know
means.
we know the basis for I think in the first book we saw the house the coat of arms for the Colin house was a tower and a crown, and I think they said that like the two glyphs that were stylized into a tower and a crown were Coke and Lenil. And so we need to find out what those glyphs mean. Let me see if I can. Aladar, Abara, Adoda. Yeah, Adoda means light. That's what we just learned here.
Yep.
What does Coke? We do not know what
great.
Coke means. So there you go. Or Lenil for that matter. So yes, the Colin house is based on Coke and Lenil, but we don't know what either of those things means.
I'm gonna say his name is born unto light, born unto cold light.
Maybe Lenil may be the same basis of Lin that they're talking about for Adolin's name, meaning born unto, just like you were guessing. So it says in the wiki we don't know what that means, but I'm guessing that Lenil is the born unto. We just don't know what the other piece means. Interesting. Okay. And then everybody's happy. It's a good time, and he looks over and whoa, hey, the king's over there. How did I not notice him? And Gavilar's just like, hey, dude, excellent day. This is a great day, man. And Dalinar, he's experiencing all this for the first time, like this amazing feeling of like seeing his child. And you guys talked about it before. Like it is Brandon does some very cool description of that in here. Some very appropriate stuff. And he asks Gavilar, like, how do you contain like this exciting feeling? And Gavilar says, I let the emotion be my reward for the work that I have done. And then Dalinar's like, wait, something is wrong. Don't lie to me. I can tell. I know you too well. And Gavilar's like, I don't want to ruin your big day. He's like, no, wondering will ruin it more than anything. So come on, just out with it. And so they leave Evie behind with the baby and they go over to the sitting room. And there's a very interesting interaction where Dalinar goes, it's your daughter, her lunacy. And Gavilar goes, no, Yasna's fine. She's recovering. It's not about that.
Yeah. So was she sick or something?
I think something's going on.
Yeah, clearly. Something we don't know anything about, but I want to know now.
Yep.
We find out Gavilar's wearing a crown. He didn't want one, but people kind of insisted. And I like the idea that it's like a black circlet, and when his hair's all black, you can't see it. But as he gets older and turns gray, you start to see the crown. I like the picture of that. Is interesting to me. And Gavilar says things are going badly at the Rift. And I think maybe the other High Princes are kind of encouraging this guy. They want to see like how I'm going to handle it. They want to see if it's worth the trouble to be a united kingdom.
This is what I don't like about the Alethi. It's just like only the strongest survive. Let's find out just how strong this guy is before we have a ploy to take him down.
Yep.
Like, it's just annoying. It
doesn't seem like a fun place to be.
No, it again, we're always going back to Futurama. It's like the water people in Futurama. It's like they're always trying to drink the current emperor. Like, just chill out, man. Just live.
I mean, it's not like Final Empire bad. We've seen worse places to live, but it's not great.
It's a good point.
I always think back to It Sucks to Be a Ska, and I'm like, well, we're not quite there, but
yeah, you're right.
And there's a discussion about like the Radiants get brought up, and Gavilar's like, how many desolations did the Radiants defend mankind? And Dalinar's like, oh shit, the Ardents talk about this in their prayers and stuff, right? 10? And apparently he got it right. Gavilar's like, that's just what they say, though. They say 10 because it sounds important. But anyway, it's time to show this kingdom that we're not soft. And Dalinar's like, oh, like an hour ago, I would have been into this, but now I don't after I've seen my son. And then he thinks, now you'll be anxious again in a few days. You don't change, your whole life doesn't change in just a moment. I think you may be underestimating, but whatever. And Gavilar's like, I need you to do some stuff for me. And Dalinar says, okay, I'm worried. And Gavilar's like, what, you're still the Blackthorn? He's like, oh no, I'm not worried about if I can win. Are you fucking kidding? No. I'm worried about like what's going to happen to the people you turn me loose on. I don't know if I can be trusted around people. And sure, I can go down there and kill them all, bathe Oathbringer in some blood. Great. But what, I come back here and I'm in a cage again? And Gavilar says that he has an idea. He's got something that might help. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we'll talk about it when you get back. And he has to remind himself, Dalinar does, like, you serve him, you do what your brother says. We've seen what happens when you get out of your place.
Yeah, sketchy thing to say to your brother, though. Like, I'm not going to tell you right now, but I've got something I'm going to do to you.
Right? Yeah, I don't trust that. I don't really trust Gavilar in general, but...
Yeah, dude's definitely sketchy.
Yeah. But he doesn't want to send Dalinar to the Rift. Take a new approach. The Herdazians and the Vedans have been, stirring up some trouble on the borders. So he's going to send Dalinar to fight on the borders, remind everyone that they're still badasses. And maybe that'll bring this whole Rift thing, that'll show them what'll happen if they don't get in line, basically. Go to Herdaz and Yakaved, remind everyone why they fear you, Dalinar. And Dalinar's like, okay, I'll do it. And as he starts to leave, Gavilar tells him, Dalinar, words are important. Much more important than you give them credit for being. And Dalinar's like, maybe. But if they were all powerful, you wouldn't need my sword, would you? And Gavilar's like, maybe. I just can't help feeling if I could find the right words, then they would be enough. And that's where we end. So yeah, it's an interesting exchange. Chapter 50 is Shosh 37, which we guessed last time was going to have to do with Kaladin's Shosh glyph. Maybe somebody else had a Shosh glyph. Now, it turns out that that's a room number. It's Shosh 37. The epigraph here, we also instruct you that you should not return to Obradai. We have claimed that world, and a new avatar of our being is beginning to manifest there.
What?
She is young yet, and as a precaution, she has been instilled with an intense and overpowering dislike of you.
What are we talking about? So confused.
Yeah, when we get to the end of part 2 and we finished all the letter pieces, we'll talk about them in more detail, but that's an interesting little bit. Whoever this is has created an avatar that does not like, presumably we're still directing the letters to Hoyd, is what we've been guessing, but I guess we don't know that for certain. And we start with Dalinar and Ko, I guess you would say, flying across the Shattered Plains. Kaladin is testing out flying with other people. He's got a few of his guys helping out to make sure everyone stays in the air okay. So we've got Dalinar and Navani and Elokar and Kadash all flying with Kaladin and 10 of his squires from Narak, the city in the middle of the Shattered Plains, back out to the war camps on the edge. And Dalinar's like, man, this is kind of weird. It's like being on a ship on the ocean. And he thinks, so this is how Kaladin's going to get Elokar's team to Kholinar? Like, you fly at the edge of the storm and you do it like this? Like, how would it be up here during a high storm? And the Stormfather's like, you're thinking of me. I can feel it.
My Stormfather ears are burning.
Yep. I always know when you're talking about me or even thinking about me. How dare. And Dalinar's like, well, I'm thinking of how you treat ships. And the Stormfather's like, men shouldn't be on the waters during the storm. Men are not waves. They have no place.
Oh, men are not waves.
Or I'm sorry, men are not of the waves. I misread that. Because then he goes, well, what about the sky? Are men of the sky? And the Stormfather grudgingly is like, okay,
sometimes.
Some.
It's like, wait, what?
And Dalinar's like, man, I've hardly even been on a ship. Well, there was that one time when I went to the valley, but never mind. We don't want to think about that. And then Kaladin starts swooping around, and they start lowering towards the ground. And Dalinar's like, what's wrong? And Kaladin's like, nothing's wrong. We're there. So they got here real fast. Everyone is amazed. And Callan's like, I still need to run a test like in front of a storm just to see if this can work. And they go back into the camp that had been Dalinar's home for 5 years while they fought this war. But it's been mostly emptied as everything got taken to Urithiru, everything that could easily move at least. But they feel like they need to maintain a presence here, if only for like farming and lumber, because they haven't figured out a good way to farm up at Urithiru, and also there aren't trees in the top of the mountains to get wood from. So these are important reasons to maintain our presence out here.
Maintain, and I imagine just like hold the ground. You don't want someone else coming in to take over and take all over your stuff.
Yeah, probably not, right? Also, there's the problem that Shallan's like, yeah, I think we've hunted the Chasm Fiends to near extinction, so we can't rely on the gem hearts forever. And Dalinar thinks, I mean, if we can get Kholinar back, that can probably support Urithiru with food and stuff, but we don't have that at the moment, so we need to, make our plans. Then we see a span reed start blinking. It is Fen, Queen of Thelana. In the recent high storm, Dalinar sent her that vision of Aharietium. She'd heard about it from his published accounts and asked to go in alone and be able to see it. And so she's sending her answer, and her answer is exactly one word: yes. And Dalinar's like, ugh, like fist pump. Finally, somebody is agreeing. All right. And so, okay, we gotta start planning for this now. Meanwhile, Dalinar has his own little goal. He wants to find out more about what happened to that supposed herald when he was here. So he heads over to the monastery where the crazy people are kept. And he runs into Kadash there. And Kadash is like, dude, I don't, do we have to have this argument again? I don't want to talk to you right now. And I was like, no, I didn't actually come to talk to you. I want to find out about this crazy guy. He's like, oh yeah, okay, sure.
It's not all about you, Kadash. Come on, seriously, man.
And he says that guy was in Shosh building, which I guess probably means that's where they put the dangerous or potentially dangerous inmates.
It's funny with these chapter titles. You draw on what you know with these words. So Shash, and we went straight to dangerous. And then, yep, Shash 37, a dangerous war. Oh, yep, see, everything has a rational explanation. But I find every single time these chapters, you guess something in the title, I can always guarantee it's not quite. We're not quite there, huh?
Well, actually, you guys, I think both you and Dak last time said Rhythm of Work would be about Moash, like doing the work and stuff, and you guys were right on target with that one.
I think it was Dak. I don't think that was me.
Oh, wasn't? Okay.
No, but that's okay. I can take credit for it. Sure.
Like he's not here. We're married. His credit can belong to me.
On behalf of my household, we were right.
And they actually do get into kind of a theological conversation. He's like, you really think that was a herald, don't you? And Dalinar's like, I think that it's likely. And he's like, look, Kadash, what if I could find a herald? What if we could confirm the herald's identity, have proof that you would accept that they are who they say they are? Would you believe him if he told you all the same stuff that I've told you? And Kadash kind of like dances around it. Like Kadash does not want to like say yes to that, but he can't really say no to that. I feel like also if a herald shows up and says this is true. And he's like, you realize that if you're right, God is dead. There is no divine mandate for what you did in conquering Alethkar. That's why people accept all the horrible shit you did during the war. Because the way we see things, if you're the strongest, you have the Almighty's favor. What you did is what he wanted. So that just makes you look real bad. And Dalinar doesn't answer that directly either. He's just like, Kadash, if this was true, would you really not want to know? Would you really want to live like not knowing the truth? So neither of them is being super direct with the answer to each other's questions, but it's an interesting conversation nonetheless. And Kadash says that the leaders of Vornism in various cities and nations were meeting today via Spanreed to discuss the Desolation, the Everstorm, and maybe Dalinar. But we don't ever find out, at least in this chapter, where they landed on any of that, which is kind of a shame because I would like to know.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and I mean, hopefully we'll get there later. It's kind of like something that's just left out there to be like, oh, that's kind of important. Anyway, moving on. Let's go try to break into this guy's cell.
Yeah. So he really does just kind of like, okay, moving on. Although there is a little moment at the end here where Dalinar's like, all I want is the truth. And Kadash says, well, we already have it. I'll show you. And Dalinar says, okay, I look forward to it. And that's where we end this conversation. And Dalinar goes to find number
Any
30.
sort of argument there, like that was cool. It's like, cool, okay, show me. I just want proof, one direction or another. Like, make it easy for me, man.
Yeah, well, and then Dalinar's like, in my painful experience, the truth may be simple, but it's rarely easy. So I guess we'll find out. He goes to number 37, and he finds the door bolted, can't get in. He's like, man, I miss having a shard blade. I could have just cut this open. And for a moment, he reaches out like he's going to summon the shard blade, and nothing happens. And the Stormfather's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, sorry, have it.
I love that. What are you doing? This is not how I come to you.
He's so mad too. It's like, because we know he doesn't like the shard blade thing. It's like even the fact that Dalinar would make the motion. It's like, hey, stop that.
And Dalinar's like, okay, well, I don't have a shard blade. Can I use my powers to like open this door? And the Stormfather's like, your power is binding things. How would that open a door? Like, you're so helpful, dude. Thanks. He's like, well, what about the other surge that I have? The Radiant and the Vision made the stones like warp and ripple. And the Stormfather's like, yeah, you're not ready for that. Besides, it works different for you than it does for a stone ward, so.
Also unhelpful, thanks.
Yep. And then he notices sunlight, so he's like, maybe there's a window. And he goes outside and he finds that giant hole that we saw Amaram cut in the wall. He's like, oh, well, I was dumb for trying to get that door open for so long. Look at this. And that also tells us, based on the hole, he's like, so someone with a shard blade came and got this guy. And if you've got a shard blade, that means you're of high importance in Alethi society. You're one of the top of the top. So somebody important came for this guy. I mean, we know who it was, but. And then he also finds a little dart. He kneels down, has to shoo away a Kremling, and then picks up the little dart. Now that we know that, like, you know, there's those Kremling guys, every time a Kremling is mentioned, I'm like, are you one of them?
Yeah, those guys freak me out.
And then Kaladin shows up, and Dalinar's like, hey, have you ever seen a dart like this, Kaladin? And Kaladin sniffs it, and he's like, there's poison on the tip, Blackbane derived. Are you sure? Very. Kaladin knows.
Yeah. Also, like, has he still not had the discussion with Dalinar? It's like, I used to be a surgeon.
That's a good question.
I'm guessing no. Because, you know, that's the kind of thing Kaladin would not tell people because he's weird.
He does not discuss his past much, but I feel like Dalinar saw that he was like medically trained when he was helping various people back when he first rescued Dalinar. So he knows Kaladin has some level of education. We don't know.
But this would be some sort of important information. You know, Kaladin doesn't share important information. He waits till people find out, or the last possible minute.
that would be him communicating. No.
Yeah, exactly. We can't stop. It's a Stormlight Archive. We can't do that. Mm-mm.
And so Dalinar says that he wants to send Kaladin to Thelana. Let him practice flying at the front of a storm. And if you look at the map, hold on, let me bring it. I love the map. If you look at the map of Roshar and compare where we would be starting here on the Shattered Plains to Thelana, or Thaylen City specifically, it's not like super far south. There's a decent amount of space for him to move southward, but we also don't really know how fast the high storm moves. So he basically says, if I lash myself south as fast as possible, yeah, I think I can probably make it. Because Dalinar wants him to go there and open the Oath Gate from that end.
Lashing yourself as fast as possible south feels like it would crush your bones, but maybe the excess Stormlight doesn't do that.
Yeah, the Stormlight just keeps healing him. It's fine. I always forget about the bones. And then we come to our last chapter, full circle. This seems like it may also be the end of a letter, because it says, this is all we have to say at this time. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. Only in this will you earn our respect.
What is he, a Jedi?
So Dak pointed out last time that it's like talking in like a collective, like there's more than one of these people. So apparently they've set up tests in the water. Okay.
You know, out in the Pure Lake.
Maybe that would be an interesting place to, yeah.
Yeah. Come to the Pure Lake. Come for the tests. Stay for the hats.
The hats, exactly. Or the magic fish or whatever. The Parshman of Moash's new sledge crew didn't like him. That didn't bother him. Lately, he didn't much like himself. So he didn't talk to his old sled crew, but this crew actively dislikes him, apparently. Like, he stopped you from getting whipped. I feel like maybe you should, whatever. And he can sense, or not. He used to be a caravaneer, whatever, a caravan guy. So he knows where they're going. He can tell that they're getting closer to Kholinar all the time here. Oh, and this is where he sees the fused on the horses. I misremembered which chapter that was in, and he finally has a conversation with one of these guys, Saw, who we met before. And Moash is like, "This isn't what it was supposed to be like." And Saw's like, "Yeah, tell me about it, human." Like, this is supposed to be the Voidbringers. They're supposed to just destroy everything. And, well, look at that one. That one's pleased to find orchards here. They only burned a few towns. They're getting farmers to work. Like, you don't farm an apocalypse. This is supposed to be the apocalypse. And Saw's over here like, "Yeah, you shouldn't talk about the fuse so casually. They're really dangerous." And Moash is like, "Well, I don't know. The one I killed went down easy enough." And then Saw's just like staring slack-jawed, and he's like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have mentioned that I killed one of their gods, huh? Yeah, whatever." And they set up in a little town just about a day's travel from Kholinar. And find out that, like, there is nothing else between here and Kholinar, intentionally. If you want to attack Kholinar, you have to bring your army out into, like, this huge empty area between these outer towns in Kholinar, which means you have no cover if the high storm comes. It's a pretty good defense, theoretically. And when they show up, they find that there's a lumber yard. And he's like, "Well, I guess we were hauling a bunch of wood. It makes sense there would be a lumber yard when we get here." But he still finds it really amusing. It's just like back in the war camps.
Well, the Parchment had to learn somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, that you're going to take on a lot of what worked and what didn't work, and, this is how they saw it done. Got results. Something.
And he starts laughing, and one of the guys is like, "Don't be so jovial, human. You'll spend the next weeks here working and building siege equipments. And when the assault happens, you'll be at the front, running a ladder towards Kholinar's infamous walls."
It's like,
and that just makes him laugh even harder.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, all right, whatever, man. I've been through this."
It's like, they're going to have me running at arrows shooting at us, and this is so much like being back on the Shattered Plains. I'm in a lumberyard. I'm going to have to run at the front of the army.
Full circle, baby.
Oh my gosh, it's like
He'll
that's
start
the title.
calling. Yeah. He'll start calling his crew Ladder 4.
Come on, ladder 4. They're like, "What are you talking about? We're like the first ladder." "Nah, we're ladder 4. Let's go."
He shows them the salute. Like, this is our ladder 4 salute.
They're like, "That's stupid."
You hurt my feelings. He's crying. And then we cut to Shallan, who is reading a letter from Mraize. It turns out the Ghostbloods have investigated Ishna, and they're like, "Yeah, she kind of exaggerated how important she was. She was kind of just an assistant to the real spies. But, yeah, she's fine. Like, we will allow you to employ her. If you eliminate her, we will help cover up the disappearance." And Shallan's like, "Okay, good to know." She's actually kind of annoyed about how possessive that is. Like, "Yeah, we'll allow you to be close to her." But while she's reading this, she's sitting in the waiting room of King Elokar's audience chamber. And she's experimenting with new ways to use her illusion powers. We saw before that she could attach an illusion to pattern, but now she's figured out that she can, like, attach one to a sphere, and it will draw on the light in the sphere. Or a pouch of spheres or something. So that's kind of neat.
Illusion grenades.
Yeah. It opens up possibilities for, leaving illusions running places. For instance, like the maps that she makes with Dalinar. She doesn't want to have to stay for the meetings. So she's like, maybe I can come up with a way to get away and leave the map. And then it's her turn. And I love the king is like, "Oh, Brighton Shallan, you didn't have to wait. Like, you're important." He's like, "I didn't want to be a bother."
Yeah, I love how Elkar's still like, "Screw everybody else. You're an important person. Please, this way."
And they start talking about the trip to Kholinar, and Shallan says that Kaladin has asked her to go to Thaylen City with him because she can use Stormlight, so if he accidentally drops her, she'll probably survive. And Elkar's like, yeah, that's good. You drop out of the sky. That works. Okay. But she wants to talk about the trip to Kholinar. She's like, "Can we talk alone?" And the guards are unsure about this, and he's like, "She's a Radiant. What's she going to do to me?" So they leave, and she, like, shows an illusion to him. And it says she'd been telling most people that she was an Else Caller like Yasna, so they wouldn't know about her ability. And Elkar jumps, and he's like, ah, that's right. So it sounds like he knew, he just kind of didn't remember or expect
Yeah.
her to suddenly bust out illusion power.
I think maybe all the inner circle knows, right? So
Yeah.
like all the people that come to the meetings that aren't, servants. So like, Yasna obviously knows, Dalinar knows, Navani knows, but
Taravangian, maybe.
oh god, yeah, that's maybe
that could be a problem.
And so Shallan's like, I'm not sure your mission's going to be as simple as you think. What if you get there and the enemy has already taken over the city? You're just going to like fight through the walls and up to the portal? I've been preparing a team of spies specializing in infiltration and information gathering. And I think maybe we can help you. And Elkar's just like, well, I don't know. I don't think Dalinar would want me taking 2 of his radiants. And Shallan has to bring out, like, look, Dalinar's not my king. You are also not my king, at least yet. Like, when I marry Adolin, I guess that'll be a different thing. But for now, I am my own woman. And she kind of, like, she changes her face again to make it that of a Parsh woman. And Elkar's like, oh, a team, you say, of spies. And then we cut to after the meeting, where she's got a letter to Dalinar officially requesting Shallan's aid on the mission. And she's like, I gotta get away from Yasna, at least until I can figure out, like, what I want, what I'm doing. A part of her knew what she was doing. It was getting harder to hide things in the back of her mind and ignore them now that she'd spoken ideals. So instead, she was fleeing. But, I mean, she could help. The group going to Kholinar, she could help Adolin reclaim his home. Pattern hummed from her skirts, and she hummed along with him. And that's the end of our section. Some interesting stuff in there. But I feel like we've been getting into one of the reasons that I was like, let's kind of go for some larger sections is not just because we have so many, but I felt like the last couple of sections didn't have as much to talk about as some of them have. So it's like, maybe we can afford to expand a little bit. So we'll see how that works going forward. Speaking of, we're moving into predicaments. Next time, we're going to make our way all the way to the end of part 2. So that'll be 6 chapters. And those 6 chapters, let's see. 52 is called After His Father. 53 is Such a Twisted Cut. 54 is An Ancient Singer's Name. 55 is Alone Together. 56 is Always With You. And 57 is Passion. So that's what we're reading. This will take us right. 57 is the last chapter of part 2. Usually there's something, big and interesting at the end of a part, so we'll see that. And, yeah. So, predicaments. What do you guys think? Where are we going? What's going to happen in these next 6 chapters or beyond?
Oh, okay. 6 chapters to the end of a part. Yeah, I think things are gonna heat up. I feel like with the amount of discussion that we've got going on about Kholinar and the variety of people obviously planning to get there, what I'd like to see is that at the end of this part we actually arrive. I don't expect to see what's going on there necessarily. Obviously, there's a lot to see what's going on. Maybe in part 3 we get a viewpoint of someone in there. So maybe we get introduced to Elkar's wife or something. I don't know. But if they're flying, I mean, they don't have to. Like, they can just land in there, right? They don't have to do much security wise to get around. But yeah, I would like to kind of arrive there. That could be fun. Regarding the chapter titles, I'm not really sure. Specifically, let me just pull them back up. Hang on. Nope, it won't. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, I don't know about chapter titles, so we'll leave them there. Yeah, overall thoughts of where we're going. I still, and I think I brought it up in the beginning, I still have concerns about Shallan and what she's going to do, but I would be interested to see a bit more of like her spy network that she's creating. That could be a lot of fun, and maybe that's the way they actually get into Kholinar and figure out what's going on. That could be really interesting to have like Shallan's viewpoints, but disguised as different people into some important conversations. That could be a lot of fun to read about. So I'd like to see something like that. Very real possibility that Moash and Kaladin will end up aligned again, and depending on the circumstances. So Kaladin, and I feel like we've kind of been backward and forward on this a little bit in predictions. Where will Moash end up? Will Moash be wanting to come back to Bridge 4 and Kaladin. I think at the start of these chapters that we read this week, I was really thinking that he's quite sympathetic to some of the Parshmen, but he also, even though he's back in, Bridge Ladder Crew, he's treated better than he was by the Alethi. He's got new boots and he's fed and he gets to sleep and, what awaits him if he goes back. He still doesn't know that Kaladin hasn't told anyone anything. So, I mean, the only other thing I could see happening is that he doesn't run into Kaladin per se, but he runs into someone else from Bridge 4 who doesn't know what's going on, who is insistent on getting Moash out of that situation, and he comes back. And then Moash and Kaladin have to maybe converse with one another about where they stand and who knows what and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and we've also got Elhokar in this situation as well. Like, how well does Elhokar know Moash? Does Elhokar know that he was involved? Obviously, Elhokar was there and was injured and stuff, but did he see Moash? Does he understand that that's what happened? Like, did Kaladin explain any of that? Probably not. Yeah, there's a whole host of interesting things that could happen in that storyline too. But overall in the book, I don't know. I think we're going to end up with the climax of the story happening in Kolina, which could be really good. Shallan with her multiple personalities coming out. I'm still really worried about Vale and Radiant. I think there's going to be something that'll happen there that's more explosive for her. But I think that's almost on the back burner a little bit if she gets a chance to use other illusions and the spy storyline coming through. So I don't expect to see that resolved immediately. But yeah, not so much predictions, more thoughts really of where we're going. I don't know. It still feels really difficult. Maybe once we get to the end of part 2, there'll be a little bit more to go off.
One thing that really struck me that we hadn't talked about before was we've discussed like what happens, if Kaladin and Moash run into each other, and they're both going to the same place. Moash is outside of the city, and presumably Kaladin is going to be inside of the city, but they're real close to each other. So what we've talked about, what happens if they run into each other? We'd even talked before about like, does Elhokar remember what happens if Elhokar comes face to face with Moash? But Kaladin's not the only, like, it said that he's going to bring some of his squires with him on this trip. And so, yeah, we have other potential Bridge 4 people who could run into Moash, and Kaladin very specifically has not told them anything about what he did. So, yeah, that opens up some interesting possibilities. Like you said, they could just be like, oh, yeah, Moash, obviously, you got to come back with us. And then that could lead to some awkwardness back at base camp or whatever.
Also could bring up some more conflict. I mean, I don't imagine it would be as simple as they've gone in, snatched Moash and left. Like, you've got the fused as well. So will this be, like, the Parshmen are talking about the false gods coming in. Okay, now you're going to have another bunch of people that are going to be able to fly in to your camp. And, what conflict arises then specifically? Like, they know Kaladin as well. So to see him come back with more people, is there going to be assumptions that the Alethi are out for war, which they assume that they are because they're obviously preparing for it. But it's another battle before you even get into Kolina, which is their goal. So yeah, it definitely raises some interesting things. But I would be disappointed if we got to the end of the book and we don't have some interaction with Moash and characters that we know well.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and there's a flip side even to Elhokar and Moash meeting back up, because, yeah, does Elhokar remember and know that Moash tried to assassinate him? That's important. But Moash still hates Elhokar. Is he done trying to assassinate him? Like, you know,
that's
so
complicated.
Yeah, there are further potential complications. Yeah, you got to figure that if they're putting them all in the same place like this, somebody's gonna run into somebody, right? The question is just when and how. But you also have a good point about Shallan. Is like we've been kind of gradually developing what seems like potentially a big problem with Shallan, and so maybe it'll get resolved somehow this book, maybe not. Maybe that's, a multi-book sort of arc. But you have to imagine, before we get to the end, that's going to develop in some way. Whether it's towards a resolution, whether it's towards just being more complicated. There's things are happening there, and what it is, what's going on with her is not entirely clear. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
I hope it goes well for her. I mean, in the long run.
She doesn't need more misery.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Jamie on a lot of this. I think that our part is going to end with either their arrival at Kolinar, or it's also likely, because this is Brandon, that there's going to be some kind of twist right at the end of the part, making it either irrelevant for them to go to Kolinar or not possible for them to go to Kolinar. What form that could take is like Kolinar has fallen, it's overrun by like every single most powerful enemy. It's now their fortress. Like, it's not probable for us to get in and do what we need to do. Or, they completely... It doesn't seem like this is something that these particular Parshendi would do, because they seem to be making viable places to live, not just completely destroying everything. But if they were to completely raze Kolinar to the ground, then obviously there wouldn't be a reason to go to Kolinar anymore.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to show up to save the town if there was no town left.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's unlikely. I feel like it's more likely that we will get there, and again, that'll be the ending of the part is when we either are about to go or have just arrived. And so overall, where we're going for the book, we're not quite halfway through yet. So I don't think Kolinar could be like the complete climax for the entire story of this book. So I am interested to what it is a stepping stone towards, in which case I would think what I predicted last time, maybe Moash ending up becoming the Parshendi champion or something in some unlikely Stockholm syndrome. I think I'm right. I don't like Elhokar still. Everybody else is wrong but me moment. And we've got Kaladin bringing all these other people, and it's like, oh, so you replace me with your new friends, Kaladin. We're not friends anymore. Even though, he probably knew they weren't friends already based on what happened previously. Yeah, I'd overall, I don't know where we're headed. I would guess it's to some kind of development of a main antagonist, right? Because we're still in the dark about who the main antagonist of this overarching story is, right? It's the so-called Voidbringers, but is it really? Like, there's something else behind the scenes, whether that's Odium or some other entity that is higher, bigger, stronger. There's something behind the scenes pulling the strings that we don't know. And because there's a big involvement from these Spren that are different from the Spren that have bonded to our heroes, I have to wonder if there's some kind of like malevolent Spren god in the Spren world that like Papa Storm is just like not interested in telling anybody about, because again, it's Papa Storm and he's like, you don't need that information right now. And I was just like, dude, just give me the information. I think that's the part maybe that's frustrating me the most about this particular story ever since the Stormfather has become quote unquote on our side, because it's like he knows a lot and he knows most of probably what's going on. And instead of just giving our heroes the information they need, we're kept on this like line of like, you're not ready for that information yet, or you don't need that information yet. And I don't love that as like a story progression thing. Like I don't love that there's this character in the book that knows more than he will say. Not only that, but tells you he knows more than he's going to say to you. I feel like that's just frustrating, and it's not that interesting. It's just annoying, And so I really hope the Stormfather soon is just like, all right, here's the deal. Because it's kind of getting tired.
I mean, he gave us some info not that long ago about the heralds and stuff, but you're right.
Sure.
There's a lot that he's still not willing to say.
Yeah, and I'm just like, bro, you're either on our side or you're not. Which is it? Like, just give us the secrets. Tell us why they turned their backs on their oaths. Like, just hurry up. We don't have time for this. The world might be ending. Let's get this done.
In the last section, that you weren't here for. There's the scene with Yasna and Ivory talking, and Yasna's like, we have to tell the other Radiants what we found, and Ivory's like, no, that'll cause them to all abandon their oaths again. And so we had a discussion about does Yasna know what the Stormfather was unwilling to say, or is this a different secret that would also do the same thing?
Well, there's always another secret, right? Right, Brandon?
True.
So, it could be. I don't know. It's just, again, a little frustrating. Like, let's just get this going.
So maybe Yasna has it, and when the Stormfather refuses, she'll come out with it. Who knows? But yes, I know Dak is definitely 100% behind you on that, and I'm also. It is annoying when there's a character right there who's supposed to be on your team and is like, "Oh, I have all this important information you need, but I'm not going to give it to you." That would be that's too easy. You're not ready.
That would be unfair to the bad guys who we hate.
It's like, yes, I also want to beat them, but you got to do it right. No cheating. Yeah, maybe someday the Stormfather will get to the point where he's like, okay, fine, I'll tell you everything, because he's been around a long time, and he talks about how he can't see everything, he doesn't know everything, but presumably he knows a lot. All right, let's move into. We actually don't have any new patrons since the last time Joe was here. Do we have any new emails? We have one new email. So let's do an email. Oh, and this guy sent a screenshot of his review. So get your misting list ready, Joe. This is from Eddie. And Eddie says, long-time listener, first-time emailer. Hello, Sanderlanche crew. I just wanted to say thanks so much for the hours of content. I've been listening casually since January 2024, along with my mom, who's emailed in as well. And I'm currently on your first episode of Words of Radiance, episode 197. The pod has helped me through a lot, including the stress of buying my first house and moving into it all on my own. The commentary, reactions, and predicaments are incredible. As an avid Final Fantasy fan, I love the tangents, and there have been moments when I've literally laughed out loud. It's been such a fun ride. Thanks so much. Now back to trying to catch up. P.S. Fuck Moash, from Eddie. And
Yay!
5-star Spotify review screenshot.
All right. Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate your review, man. You, sir, wasn't with the burn. You're a smoker. I want to say, if any of you want to be in the Misting crew, all you got to do is leave a 5-star review. See?
Wow, that rhymed good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He rhymes all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, they call me Joe the Pro. We're going to leave the rest of that sentence out.
Yeah, no, we don't need to go any farther into that. So yes, thank you for your email, Eddie. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. That email took me on a little bit of a ride because he's like, yeah, I'm listening along with my mom. And I was like, oh, is this like a teenager or something who's into these books also? That's cool. And it's like, help me buy my first house and all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, so maybe not a teenager. Okay. If you're buying your first house as a teenager, well, good on you. I'm impressed with you.
Yeah, dude, are you a millionaire? Because, we got a Patreon.
But if you'd like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Patreon, as Joe mentioned, where I am still reading through and posting my reactions the first time through Oathbringer. I'm not literally still reading through it. I finished in January or February or something.
Wow.
It's just the episodes are still going up. There were a lot of them. Let's see. Let me see how many are left in Wind and Truth.
You said Oathbringer.
I think you said Oathbringer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wind and Truth. Yeah, not Oathbringer. I read Oathbringer a long time ago.
Yeah, I knew what you meant, but I was like, wait a minute. I don't think that's what he meant to say.
I most recently posted up to chapter 106 on our Patreon, and there are still 15 episodes left of that book. But I've also started reading, and I recorded my first chunk of Isles of the Emberdark. Secret Project.
Ooh, that's right. That just came out.
Yes, it's very cool. It does, in fact, have the original story, Six of the Dusk,
cool.
split up into pieces and then included as flashbacks in the book. I read in the preface to the book, Brandon's like, look, it's basically really important that you know all the stuff from Six of the Dusk in order to understand what happens in this book, but it's not really a good idea to publish a full-length novel where required reading is a short story that a lot of people probably haven't read, because a lot of people don't read side stories, short stories, novellas, whatever. They just read the big novels. So he was like, I basically had to find a way to put this in there. And so he's got it. He turned it into flashbacks, and so far there's like some very minor changes, but according to the prelude, he didn't really change much. Just some stuff to maybe flesh out the world a little bit more.
Cool. Yeah, it looks really awesome on my shelf with my other secret projects that I can't read. So, it's super fun to just look at it and be like, man, that's a book. No, I do like the cover a lot. I like how, and it's Isles of the Emberdark, right? So you would assume it would be kind of a dark cover, but I really, really like the cover. And it goes well because each of the secret projects kind of has a different color shade to it. So it's fun to see the multicolored books on my shelf. And also, I had Dragonfield Prime on there too. So I got another red cover on there. So they look nice sitting together. And my signed copy of The Lost Metal. So that's fun.
Yeah. In the original concept art, when they were first like, hey, there's a Secret Project 5, it was going to be purple. And I was like, oh, purple's my favorite color. I'm excited that we're going to have a purple Secret Project. And then they changed it to black. And it does still look cool. I was just a little bit disappointed that it wasn't purple.
Yeah, I didn't realize until I looked at the books, the actual paper of the books, that 2 of the books are printed on black paper with white text. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Well, yeah, so it's interesting because I didn't realize, I thought that it was just like Isles of the Emberdark was sprayed, the edges sprayed, because that's a big thing now, is spraying the edges with various colors or whatever. So I was like, oh, they sprayed the edges black. And then you open it up, and it's actually like the first section of the book is black text on white page, and then it changes at some point to white text on black page.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, that's pretty awesome, actually. Like, I don't know what it is. I haven't gotten nearly that far to know, what happens in the book to make the pages change color, but I'm interested.
Yeah, it's cool. I obviously haven't read it, so I don't know either, but it looked cool.
Yeah. So, yep, I have started that. I'm not sure when the episodes will start going up. I don't know if I want to start, interspersing them with Wind and Truth, because Emberdark is new, people are interested in that, or if I want to wait till I get these other 15 episodes out of Wind and Truth and then move into that. If you guys if our patrons have a preference on which one you'd like, feel free to message or comment on Patreon or whatever that, I want you to start doing Emberdark or keep finishing Wind and Truth or try to do both at the same time. It may come down to if I have time to record when I have several Emberdark in the can already, then maybe I'll be like, okay, I can start putting out some of these too. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that is what's happening on our Patreon. If you're interested in my reaction to those kind of things, feel free to join that, and Joe will give you a faring power to go along with the misting power that you can get by leaving us a 5-star review. So check out those things.
You want to be cool.
I want to be cool.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. I just want to be popular.
So thanks to our patrons. You guys are awesome. Thanks to people on the Discord. If you want to join our Discord, there's a link at our website, www.thesanderlanch.com. You can join our Discord from there, chat up. Thanks to our emailers, and thanks to everybody who's just showing up every week, listening to us talk about these books. It's been great fun for me these last few years. Just makes me appreciate these books in new ways all the time. So I hope the other experienced readers out there are having similar fun with the show. Remember, we're starting our expanded readings with not next week. We're not going to have a new episode next week, as I mentioned before. But for the next episode, we will be doing 6 chapters. That's 52 through 57, taking us right to the end of part 2. So if you're following along, read those 6 chapters. Music by Miracle of Sound, and Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Vasher. Crabs ahoy!
Supernovas die, fractured in the fateful fall of man. Feel the heart raging of a strength unseen. Unity will bring the upper hand. So look to the break of dawn.